going to get this going. Council will stand in session. Let's go to roll call.
Ms. Romero? Mr. Cunningham? Mr. Durham?
Here.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Fimbers?
Here.
Mr. Kozaczyk? Here. Mayor Rothschild?
Here. Item 2.
Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
The invocation will be given by Pastor Philip Cruz, Rincon Mountain Presbyterian Church. After the invocation, I ask that you remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which tonight will be led by Vice Mayor Scott.
Thank you. Let's pray. Almighty God and sustainer of all that we know and see, we come to you asking that in our time of need, you would come to us. And we're always in need of your counsel and guidance. So we ask that you please come to us now. Come and grant to those you have appointed to these civic offices the wisdom and character and values that would best serve the city of Tucson. Father, we know that there are many sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors from this great city that serve now in our armed forces that allow us to gather freely here, to voice our thoughts, to carry out the duties before us. We ask that the lives of all the men and women who serve in the defense of this nation would be preserved, and that those who are far from home would return home safe and sound and soon. In like manner, we thank you for those who serve this city as first responders, putting their safety and their lives on the line for the welfare of others. We pray that you would cause their efforts to be multiplied through the steady and dependable work that they do each and every day. Protect them as they serve and protect us. Please watch over their families. Keep them from worry and from harm. And God, would you grant your grace and wisdom to Mayor Rothschild, Vice Mayor Scott, and each representative of the 6 wards of this city. Give them unity as they deliberate on development plans and transportation and recycling and the many other exciting issues facing them this evening and in the coming months. Finally, O God, may the words of the great 4th century African bishop St. Augustine of Hippo be true for every person in this city. Let not our hearts rest until they rest in you. Hear our prayer, O God. Amen.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Scott, I think you might have Vice Mayor Scott, I think you may have a few words to say.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the anniversary month of my becoming an American citizen. And the pledge that was just recited by many Americans all the time sometimes loses flavor if you haven't thought about what it really means. I know what it really means because I had to recite this before as I was becoming an American citizen. So what you just did when you saluted this American flag was you took this oath, and I'd like to read that to you. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. That's what you just did.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Scott. I know it's a special day to you.
You hate me.
Because you're Canadian. special presentations tonight. The first is proclaiming May the 2nd, coming up to be National Day of Prayer. I believe Chaplain Catherine Silvas is here to accept the proclamation. Are you here? You are? Okay, let me go ahead and read the proclamation, and if you want to say a few words. Whereas National Day of Prayer will be observed on Thursday, May 2nd, with a theme of Love One Another. Whereas a National Day of Prayer has been part of our national heritage since it was declared by the First Continental Congress in 1775 and approved as a joint resolution by the United States Congress in 1952, that the President shall set aside and proclaim a suitable day each year, other than a Sunday, as a National Day of Prayer on which the people of the United States may turn to God in prayer and meditation at churches, in groups, and as individuals. And whereas the United States Congress in 1988, by Public Law 100-307, as amended, establishes that an act to provide for setting aside the first Thursday in May is the date on which the National Day of Prayer is celebrated. And whereas leaders and residents of our communities, cities, states, and nation are afforded the privilege of prayer and the joy of seeking divine guidance, strength, protection, and comfort, and whereas Tucsonans cherish the freedom to gather in prayer and to worship as they please at the freedom of our country. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan Rothschild, Mayor of the City of Tucson, do hereby recognize May 2nd, 2019 as National Day of Prayer in the City of Tucson in appreciation for the freedom of religion that we all share. And witness whereof I put my hand and seal this 23rd day of April, 2019. So, ma'am, it's for you. Thank you.
It's an honor and privilege to receive this, and I just want to invite you all to our event at Hakami Plaza from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you.
All right. So this next one is always a lot of fun. We're going to have some recognition of some of our outstanding teen citizens as awarded by the Metropolitan Education Commission. Just a quick word about the Metropolitan Education Commission. They've been a commission. It was originally started as a city-county commission, oh gosh, years and years ago. But their function today, among other things, their real primary function is to work to get first generation and other young high school students who have not had the opportunity to go to college ready to go to college. But in addition to that, they have a great program of young leadership in our community for our high school students, basically going around and meeting with all the city council people, the mayor, the board of supervisors, and the real baptism by fire, going to visit the state legislature. And so tonight we'd like to present these awards. Ed, if you and Arlene, if you'd like to come up with your, I'll call the students. I know a couple of them aren't here. I may call their names, but basically each one of them is going to receive this certificate in acknowledgement of their outstanding work. On behalf of the people of Tucson, it's with great honor that the certificate is presented to you in recognition of you receiving the Dorothy O. Finley Outstanding Teen Citizen Award. Your service to our city, outstanding leadership, and optimistic attitude provide a positive role model to many. You are one of the Old Pueblo success stories as demonstrated by your dedication to family, peers, and community, even as you faced and overcame many challenges. I commend you on behalf of a community that sees its outstanding youth as future leaders. Congratulations on a job well done, and I want it signed by the mayor, me, and but I really do want to emphasize that part about our future leaders, and it's really our wish, as all of us, that you may go away for a little while, but come back to this community and lead us on to the next generation. So with that, I'll call you up. Gracia Cubillas. There you go. Sometimes mom, dad, and grandma want to get pictures, so pause. Guillermo Duarte. I can see you brought a big cheering section. So good. John Davis. first, Arlene. Jessica Evans. Boo May. Lorenzo Norgian. Justin Sotomayor. This one is a special shout out apparently from Councilmember Cunningham, Michaela Trejo Flores. We got two more. Jordan Moreno. All right. Well, congratulations to all of you, and best of luck. You're not going to need it, but work really hard and make our community a better place. And I'll add just one more thing. Some of your predecessors, some of the alumni, are just remarkable young citizens in our community today. So you've got great futures. So thank you for that. Thanks, Arlene.
Your Honor. All 10 kids are unbelievable, but I think we should probably recognize the Crystal Apple Youth of the Year Award tonight, and he's going to receive the award on Friday. So where's my man John Davis? There he is. Let's give him an extra round of applause, everybody. 2019 Youth Award.
Did you know you were winning that, or did Cunningham just blow the whole surprise? No, I didn't. Okay, good. All right, so we have one more, which is actually also a really good one. Yesterday, as I'm sure most of you know, was Earth Day, April 22nd, but we like to think of every day as Earth Day in this community. And so we had a big festival on Saturday, I believe, at the Children's Museum. And then yesterday we were out planting trees, which is a great way easy way to help make the earth a better place with shade and cooling and the urban heat island. And but we were also out at Reed Park, right beside the Rose Garden, putting in 2 new installations of solar. One of, I think, 26 projects that this council has approved over the next several years to double our solar capacity. In honor of all that, a little bit about Earth Day. The first Earth Day was celebrated on April 22nd, 1970, with the goal of inspiring environmental awareness, encouraging the conservation, protection, and appreciation of our world's natural resources. And whereas all people, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have a moral right to a healthy, sustainable environment with appropriate economic growth, and whereas the responsibility of each of us to safeguard the environment, recognizing that all life depends upon the earth for our existence, well-being, and development, and whereas a sound natural environment is the foundation of a healthy society and a robust economy. And whereas as responsible citizens of Tucson, we must take action to create a sustainable economy, living in harmony with nature through sound environmental stewardship. And whereas Earth Day is a time to celebrate the progress we have made as a community to ensure the environmental health of our neighborhoods and people, and whereas local environmental organizations and individual conservationists should be celebrated for their efforts on behalf of the earth and for their contribution to the sustainability sustainability of our city. Now, therefore, I, Jonathan Rothschild, Mayor of the City of Tucson, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2019, yesterday, to be Earth Day 2019 in this community, and encourage all of our residents and businesses to commit to sustainable practices at home and at work, whereas I put my hand and seal this 22nd day of April 2019. And I'd like Amanda Bickle from Trees, please, to come on up and accept this. I hope you know you were coming up because I really would like you to say a few words. So Trees, Please is a real grassroots organization, and I'd like you to speak for a minute or two about it. Really just another one of those local organizations that is helping to make our community a more sustainable place and actually to make neighborhoods and fill community around neighborhoods. So Amanda, this is for you. All right, thanks.
Hi. So our nonprofit Trees Please, we do a few different things. The first is habitat restoration. So we adopt parks and washes around the city and kind of get the neighborhoods around those washes and parks to kind of take ownership, clean them. We plant new trees and do a lot of restoration projects in those areas. And then second, we have a free community garden on Speedway, and it's open to the public. We do free workshops on gardening, rainwater harvesting, things like that. We also have free art classes for families, and we just try and make it a place for the community to come together.
Okay, let's move on to item 3. City Clerk. I'm sorry.
Item 2D.
Oh, I forgot something. 2D. I'm sorry. Item 2D.
Appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 116, dated April 23, is received into and made part of the record. May I have a motion to approve the appointments in the report?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Terry Byron to the Veterans Affairs Committee and the reappointment of James Palmer to the Fire Code Review Committee. Is either Mr. Byron or Mr. Palmer here this evening? I don't think so, but we always like to thank, as a body, all the volunteers who serve on our boards and commissions for their service. They serve without pay and provide a real necessary service to all of us. So I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Are there any personal appointments to be made at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 3.
Mayor and Council report, summary of current events.
City Manager's communication number 111, dated April 23, is received into and made part of the record. This time has been scheduled to allow members of the Mayor and Council to report on current events. Does any council member have anything to report at this time? Councilmember Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to invite the community to El Tambo Fest 2019. This Friday is the 2019 El Tambo Fest, a cumbia summit of the borderlands. Doesn't that sound fun? Every year, Sonido Tambo partners with the Historic Hotel Congress to put together a community event that encompasses discussion, food, live music, and culture. El Tambo Fest is a night that celebrates the close connection between all our communities across the Borderlands region. Bands and DJs from all over the country visit Tucson in April to participate in this festival. Sponsored by KXCI, the Southwest Folklife Alliance, and the Agave Heritage Festival, this event has become a cultural music staple for the Tucson community. I invite you all to support this local fiesta and dance the night away at Hotel Congress this Friday, April 26th. The event starts at 7 p.m. and it's at Hotel Congress, located at 311 East Congress Street. For more information, call Jackie at 520-481-1396.
All right, Councilmember Fimbres.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last Thursday, more than 500 people turned out for the annual LULAC Educators Awards and Scholarship Banquet held at the Doubletree Hotel. Receiving the LULAC Presidential Citations Awards were the Honorable Edward Manuel, Chairman of the Tohono Nation, Cassandra Becerra with Congressman Raul Grijalva's office, Thomas Boyle with the American Patriot Memorial, Jim Monaco, Pima Community College's Athletic Director, and my Chief of Staff, Mark Kerr, for Ward 5. Receiving the Soldado de Cuero Lifetime Achievement Awards were Dr. Alfredo Valenzuela, retired educator and founder of Davis School Mariachi Program, our Honorable Mayor Jonathan Rothschild, and our Honorable Vice Mayor Shirley Scott of the City of Tucson. These individuals were being honored for their work and commitment to bettering the lives of our youth in our community. On Thursday, April 16th, Councilmember Regina Romero joined me on the Senior Affordable Housing Forum and listening session at the El Pueblo Activity Center. The first session took place at Armory Park in December 2018. I want to thank the Elder Alliance Housing Action Team, Pima Council on Aging, AARP, the Tucson Housing Foundation for coordinating the event. I also want to thank the staff at El Pueblo Center for their work. On April 11th, I had the privilege as Vice Mayor and to take part in the ceremony honoring U.S. Army Private First Class Margarito S. Ramirez with the French Legion of Merit Medal. France's Consul General Christophe Lemonet presented Margarito with the Legion of Honor Medal for his service in France during World War II. Margarito is 99 years old. I want to thank the French government for recognizing Margarito for his service, and I want to also thank him for serving this nation during World War II. I presented Private Margarito S. Ramirez with the City of Tucson's Ward 5 Certificate of Appreciation and a Medallion of Hope, and Councilman Paul Durham presented Private Ramirez with the Certificate of Appreciation for Mayor Jonathan Rothschild. Lastly, proud to announce that Jerry Neely, the director of the Quincy Douglas Neighborhood Center, was belled by Ben's Bells for his work this afternoon at the city in our community. Congratulations, Jerry. It's a great honor for such a dedicated person. We're proud of him. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's move on then to item 4.
City Manager's Report, Summary of Current Events.
City Manager's Communication Number 112, dated April 23rd, is received into and made part of the record. The time has been scheduled to allow the City Manager to report on current events. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, no report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 5.
Liquor License Applications, Report from City Manager.
City Manager's Communication Number 113, dated April 23, is received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, please read the liquor license agenda.
Your Honor, on this evening's liquor license agenda, under item 5B, we have 2 requests for new license. Under item 5C, we have 6 requests for special events. Staff has indicated that all the applicants are in compliance with city requirements with the exception of item 5B2. Planning and Development Services Department has indicated that the applicant is not in compliance with city requirements. Therefore, that item will be considered separately. An appropriate motion would be to forward items 5B1 and C1 through 6 to the State Liquor Board with a recommendation of approval.
Can I get that motion, please?
I move that we forward the liquor licenses to the State Liquor Board with a recommendation of approval.
5B1 and C1 through 6.
5B1 excluded.
5B2 excluded.
5B2 excluded.
Okay, got that motion. We got a second. Any other discussion on that matter? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes. Okay, 5B2, I believe, is in Councilmember Cunningham.
Yes, Your Honor. Is the applicant here? So, Your Honor, we reached out to the applicant. I actually called him and emailed him yesterday. This was kind of a weird one. He does actually live on 3.3 acres of property, but it's not zoned as SR. He doesn't want to open a store, but I think he wants to like make wine and hand it out. I'd like to meet with him first. I don't know. Can we delay this one?
What's your time on this, Mike or Roger?
The action on this is due by May 4th, Your Honor.
So we'd have to do it tonight.
Yep.
And I haven't talked to him, and I'm really not comfortable moving it over until I've talked to some of the neighbors. So he's probably going to have to go through the process again.
Yep.
And I'm gonna move that we recommend denial at this point.
Yep.
And or maybe can we recommend extension? I mean, I don't even know if the neighbors want it. So I'm just going to go recommend denial.
Yep.
And then we can go back through the process.
You can go back to the process. Okay, we've got a motion to deny on 5B2. Any other discussion on that? Do we get first? I guess we need a second. We get a second on that. Got a second. Any other discussion on that matter? Hearing none. All in favor of Councilman Cunningham's motion, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you, Councilman Cunningham. I appreciate that. Okay, let's move on then to item 6.
Call to the audience.
At this time, any member of the public is allowed to address the mayor and council on any issue for items scheduled for a public hearing at this meeting. If this matter is not on for public hearing, you must have your card now for call to the audience. Please make sure you've read the information on the back of the speaker's card before making your presentation. Speakers are limited to 3-minute presentations. Call to the audience is scheduled to last for 30 minutes. Pursuant to the Arizona Open Meeting Law, individual council members may ask the city manager to review a matter, ask the matter to be placed on a future agenda, or respond to criticism made by speakers. However, the mayor and council may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during the call to the audience. We have a number of cards here, so we will start. We'll start with Robert Royce.
Number 265. This year marks 90 years since this city instituted its experiment with city manager government. It's an experiment that's gone about 40 years too long. If we'd cut it off after half a century, it would have saved hundreds of millions of dollars in misspent money from the fact that the manager government doesn't provide the leadership of a real mayor. To give you a contrast, in Fayetteville, Arkansas, the experiment in manager government started in 1966, and by 1986, 20 years later, the Republican women had identified the problem and they put the issue on the ballot. Very professionally, Marlena Ray, a woman that I have great respect for because she reminds me of my mother, but they didn't promote it and they lost. So I came back 4 years later and tried to put it on the ballot, and I threw my first petition out in 1990, and then I came back in 92 and I finally got the petition through, called the election, and we won. And that was the end of city manager government in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Arkansas statute allows, dissolves the old manager government when you vote to institute a aldermanic government. The moment that the new aldermanic government is elected, the old one ceases to exist. Now, I haven't done that kind of research on Arizona statute, but it's pretty clear to me that I don't have those rights. I can ask the voters to change the charter to create a city manager or an aldermanic mayor or council government, but I can't get rid of you without a recall. So we don't have the right to have a completely changed government every 6 years the way they do in Arkansas. So we're suffering here from a lack of voter rights. And everything that, I mean, look at this room. Is this a room adequate for a city of 500,000 people? No natural light. In these seats, as the person who has spent more time in these seats in the last 18 years than any other individual in the city, $5 bus station seats, I mean, to me, they become a metaphor for your lack of respect for the people of this city. Now, that's why I'm running for mayor, because we need a mayor who believes in the new system that I'm proposing. There's no point in asking the voters to change this government unless we have a mayor that respects the new government.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more thing, please. Since everybody's focused on Guatemala, I have promised the soups in the next week's meeting a presentation on Guatemala, a very happy presentation on Guatemala that you are totally oblivious to. I would suggest that you please watch because you will learn a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Sandra Hansen.
Good evening. I'm Sandra M. Hansen, a resident of Tucson, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Colonia Solana Neighborhood Association. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to seek the naming of the Rose Garden in honor of Seal Peterson. As you know, she had a lifelong 101 years of service to our community, to Tucson as well as the greater community. She expressed her love and her life for and to Tucson in so many ways. She worked tirelessly to promote and protect, to enhance and enrich, and to educate residents of Tucson as well as visitors about our rich cultural heritage, our past, and how if we work together, we become a better group of people. Many of the agencies that she founded include the Tucson's Children Museum, the Arizona Theater Company, the Arizona Opera, as well as Casa de los Niños. Those agencies continue to do outstanding work today. As you know, Seal Peterson had a flair for fashion. She was an entrepreneur at a time when not very many women had businesses. She opened the co-ed shop here in Tucson in 1931 and Seal Peterson's in 1937. She was nationally known for her designs. She would make special designs for customers. We had dignitaries and movie stars who came to Tucson to shop at her store. In the early 40s, she had a radio station. Again, not very many women had radio shows at that time, and called the Star of the Day. She also appeared many times on Arizona Illustrated on PBS, and she used that as an opportunity to inform us of the importance of working together, respecting each other, respecting all cultures, and embracing our diversity. Seal Peterson's success as an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, and philanthropist make her a true Tucson icon. She was a star, and she used that star power for the greater good. Seal Peterson loved beauty and saw it everywhere. She loved flowers, in particular roses, and loved the rose garden. It is our great honor to have been able to work with you to name the rose garden at Reed Park the Seal Peterson Rose Garden. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Jason, I may mispronounce this, Huarque? Jason Huarque?
Good evening, esteemed Mayor and Council. My name is Jason Huarque. I'm chairperson for Barrio Santa Cruz Neighborhood Association. I want to thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. Especially want to thank you for making this part of our government. You know, as a leader of the community, it really means a lot to me, but more so serving overseas in the Marine Corps. I visited a lot of countries where this sort of opportunity wasn't available. And being in those situations and doing what we had to do over there, you really get to some self-evaluation about what freedom means to you and about what this country means to you and why you're over there. And the reason I was there was because of this, because of these freedoms, this ability to speak and have our voice heard within the government. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to introduce our neighborhood. Councilor Romero, she knows us. We've been working together over the last year. We're just recently organized last May, but we're a very old neighborhood. Lots of history, lots of things have happened there. All this we learned as we organized recently. There's so many families that did work before us. The community, if you don't know where it is, it's a very small area between Silver Lake and Star Pass, and between the Santa Cruz River and the frontage road. It used to be just dirt roads, collection of houses, you know, some small families. And the families that came before us, families like the Barreras, Verdugos, the Ormsbys, who our park is named after, they developed that into a community. And the roads became paved. They worked with the city to get a park built. You know, that came straight from our neighbors. Our neighbors actually paved the basketball courts that we use today. And then so, you know, learning that as we formed this organization, you know, it gave us a great obligation to carry on to that tradition and to reform our neighborhood because we had let that fall. There was a lot of disrepair, a lot of neglect that happened because we no longer had a voice. And, you know, when we did raise our voice, actually just doing internet research, the first contact I made was through World War and Natalia Ontiveros, who is an amazing asset to the city, and that just can't be explained. And since we have, our roads have been repaired, repaved, our park has been overwhelmingly refurbished. Director Dennis Brent Dennis has done great work with us. The crime, the drugs, the homeless camps that were in the neighborhood they've all been taken care of, and it's a totally different place to live. Our daily way of life has changed, and that's happened. We've been really inspired. We were inspired first by our neighbors, by their passions, and by their stories. And what was really unexpected, because we hadn't done it before, was the passions that came back from people within the city that worked with us. So I'd like to invite you all, City Manager Ms. Ortega and Councilor Romero will be there along with Brett Dennis. We're reopening our Ormsby Rec Center, which has been closed for 10 years. And that will happen on Saturday, May 4th from 11 to 1. And there's going to be, we have Officer Scooby Fernandez making some hot dogs. We're going to have games and activities for the children. And there's over a dozen agencies that are interested in being involved and offer resources to the people of the community. So thank you for all you've done. I hope to see you all there, to see people from your community there. And thank you.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank Jason and Barrio Santa Cruz for all the work that they've been doing. That it is the neighbors of these neighborhoods that are eyes and ears. And because of their leadership, Barrio Santa Cruz has been doing so much work for the community. So I'd like to thank you, and I'm looking forward to opening Ormsby Center and celebrating with the community. Thank you for coming, Jason, and thank you for defending our country.
Thanks. Gigi Larrington.
Thank you, Mayor Rothschild and council members. Special thanks to Steve Kozachek and Paul Durham. Want to take this opportunity to comment regarding the early afternoon study session on item 3 on the Integrated Weed Management Project. I am Gigi Larrington. I'm a native Tucsonan, but I don't live in the city limits at this time. I'm part of the toxin-free Pima County Citizens Group that brought the concept of Organic First to the Tucson Council. My comments today focus on only the organic turf program and its money factors, since money is a vital issue. The costs and savings for feeding the soil to build up the biomass needed for water savings are fairly well documented. A 2010 comparison study of organic versus conventional costs on multiple school athletic fields concluded that the cost of an organic turf management program averaged about 15% higher in the first 2 years, and shows that by year 3 it is already saving money as soil biology improves and water requirements diminish. It further notes that once established in years 4 and 5, the organic approach results in annual cost savings of greater than 25%. This is the goal, to actually save money. It is the turf program development that you can recoup money in water savings. In the years since this study was completed, technology has improved and cost parity can generally be achieved more quickly. The professional organic consultant who was the primary author states that worst case scenario for Tucson with our alkaline soils and high heat should still be at only a 15% increase for the first 2 years. I have a copy of the study that I can give to the clerk to give copies to the council members if they wish. We have a request for the City of Tucson. As sites are transitioned to organic, we would like the City of Tucson to pledge to measure the volume of water saved, calculate its current dollar value, and apply the saved money to the transition budget for the next park. As more and more water is saved on subsequent fields and those saved monies are multiplied and applied in a snowball effect, the city should be able to speed up the conversion until all 128 grassy parks are completed. The final point about money relates to the Parks and Recreation Policy 12 in the general plan. We anticipate that neighborhoods will begin vying to have their neighborhood park converted and may be able to seek grants, donations, and other ways to help the city fund the conversions. We hope our group can help those eager neighborhoods find sources of financial support. Thank you for your attention and for your leadership in the Organic First.
I thank you. So we had a number of late cards come in, so I'm going to change the structure a little. We'll just take those topics together. We'll save the close for the Seal Peterson Rose Garden one more time. But so since we've started on the integrated pest management or weed management program, we'll just take them in order. Melissa Diane Smith. Oh, I guess the caution that comes with that is if somebody said something that you were going to say, it's okay just to go on to your next topic.
Thank you. I am an educator with Toxin-Free Pima County, and I attended the Beyond Pesticides Conference in Irvine last April. I thank you for your leadership in moving forward an organic first land management approach. But I do wish the process would move along at a quicker pace. To hopefully help speed things along, I'd like to share with the Council a recent offer from the nonprofit group Beyond Pesticides. Parks Director Dennis and Councilmember Kozaczek have been given copies of the offer from Beyond Pesticides, and I gave a copy to the clerk to make copies for all of you. I think the program would fit in nicely to kick off the comprehensive long-range plan that Brent Dennis and his colleagues have already been developing. It would more quickly help fulfill our city's promise to demonstrate beautiful turf with meaningful water savings to the citizens of Tucson. Beyond Pesticides, which is the major player in the movement towards the people and environment protective organic approach, is offering Tucson a comprehensive pilot testing and consultation program to help bring 2 high-use, high-visibility fields to full organic status for $7,500. If Tucson cannot afford this, Beyond Pesticides is offering to cover the $7,500 as an in-kind service. Either way, it's an offer that's hard to refuse because the pilot program includes on-site walkthrough evaluation, 2 soil analysis, and a detailed transition management plan for each site, as well as technical assistance throughout the transition period up to 3 years. They also include assistance in transferring the knowledge learned from the pilot sites to conversion of all the other Tucson turf properties. Most importantly, they provided full-day training in Tucson, to which Beyond Pesticides encourages the city to invite school districts, neighboring cities, landscapers, and anyone else who wishes to attend. This is a superb educational opportunity for Tucson to lead and influence our surrounding communities and agencies. Regarding the costs, Beyond Pesticides has found that in most cases can be transitioned within a department's conventional turf budget. They work with cities around any budgetary or equipment limitations. Thank you for considering this information as we move forward to creating a healthier Tucson for people, wildlife, and the environment.
Thank you. Robin Motzer?
Hi, thank you, Mayor Rothschild and City Council members, and a special thanks to Steve Kozaczek. I'm Robin Motzer. I live in the foothills. And thank you for approving the organic land management and greatly reducing the pesticides and herbicide usage. As you probably know, Tucson is home to the largest bee population in the world, and we have a high number of other pollinators, which, as you know, are important to the food production in the area. According to the EPA, more than 1 billion pounds of pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, and fungicides are used each year in the U.S. That's nearly 25% of the world's total use. 1 billion pounds of chemicals in our water, soil, air, and bodies, and in our children. Pesticides are a major environmental stress on adults and children alike, but children's developing brains are especially susceptible to these chemicals. Pesticides kill the soil, and more water usage is necessary. In our drought-ridden desert, this is also a major concern to all of us. And with the climate issues on the rise, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to be better stewards for the land, animals, and humanity. Every species has a purpose and a job to do, and it's important to protect and maintain a healthy, biodiverse ecosystem. So again, thank you for your leadership and continued efforts to make Tucson safe in our parks, schools, and all our public and wild lands. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next topic, 3 cards. We'll take the 2 and then the 1. Richard Mayers.
Good evening. I'm Richard Mayers, live in the city of Tucson. Discussion of the GPLET for the Union on 6 motivates me to bring up a related problem right around the corner from that site. When we offer economic incentives in exchange for projects that promise to enhance the livability of the surrounding area, we have to be very careful that what we get in return is a real enhancement and not just an attractive but unworkable plan. The example is a still unresolved problem with car traffic exiting from the district on 5th all day, every day. Residents exit to the north, violating the one-way arrows and coming out of entrances with no stop signs. The layout of the development and the surrounding traffic patterns make it natural for residents to want to exit onto 5th Street and go north to University or west to 6th Avenue. Neighbors wanted to prevent that kind of traffic near their homes, so they pushed to have the exits restricted to going south onto 6th Street. Arrows were painted, but the scheme has never been consistently enforced, either on Herbert, where the arrows are on city right-of-way, or where the arrows are on private property. It's completely unpredictable for the passing pedestrians or cyclists, and the cars go faster than they should because they know they're getting away with a prohibited movement. I'm asking for 2 things. Please work with any future developments receiving the GPLET incentive to design their interface with the surroundings in ways that will actually function the way they intend it to, and please work with the owners of the district, who are also the owners of the Union on 6 site, to fix the problem that's causing constant wrong-way traffic exiting the district onto 5th. And I will add that I don't think the students are wrong for going the wrong way. I wouldn't want to turn onto 6th Street from the alleys either. I think the problem just needs to be looked at and fixed by both the city and the developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Jasmine Pierce.
Mayor, Councilman. My name is Jasmine Pierce. I'm representing myself. And first of all, I would like to thank you all for your ongoing efforts with the IID. I think there are so many gems in the IID that are really protecting our historic neighborhoods, and I applaud all of you for your continuing efforts in making that like a living document that is going to continue and grow with us. What I'm here to discuss is the GPLET, not specifically for the Union on 6th project, but in general. I do not really agree with the tax abatement incentive program. These are billion-dollar companies, and that costs, like you're basically handing them millions of dollars to build here, and that's selling ourselves short. Like we are a great community. We don't need to hand billion-dollar companies millions of dollars to build here. They want to be here. And all of these costs are getting pushed down to all the property owners and business owners, and like that's going to cost the property owners hundreds of dollars every year, the business owner thousands of dollars every year. And this is the community that they're invested in, that we are all invested in. These are out-of-state companies that, I mean, they hardly even take the time to get to know our community. Like the cost should not be passed down to those of us that live here and are invested in it. So I think you should consider that when handing these companies millions of dollars.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Riggs.
Hi, hi, Mayor and Council, thank you. I am Shannon Riggs. I'm the chairperson of the Historic 4th Avenue Coalition. And we entered into the community benefits agreement with Graystar on the Union on 6 development So I'm here to express support for the GPLET in light of the community benefits agreement that we entered into, and I'm here to answer any questions during the discussion of the item on the agenda later.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Anna Landau? I think it's Landau.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for this opportunity to address you all. I want to specifically thank Steve Kozacek as well as Bill DuPont and the Colonia Solana neighborhood. My grandmother was Dale Peterson. As you heard earlier, the list of her many accomplishments and contributions to this community is long. It could take us all night sitting here talking about them all. My grandmother was a larger-than-life figure. She was a role model not only to myself, but to many, many in this community. She was an inspiration for many in the city. She brought people together in a way that was she was constantly coming up with new ideas and new ways of leveraging projects and resources in this city in a way to benefit the larger community. She was an entrepreneur and a visionary. She was an advocate and a defender. She was a champion of the underdog in a way that never made the people feel like they were an underdog. The naming of the Rose Garden is something that she would be deeply touched by. The Rose Garden is a place of beauty and a place of community and connection. It seems a very apt representation of what she was about. So I wanted to just thank you on the part of the Peterson family, and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. It's a pleasure. Anna. All right, let's move on to item 7.
Consent agenda items A through H.
Reports from the city manager on the consent agenda are received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read the consent agenda.
Your Honor, on this evening's consent agenda, item A is approval of minutes. Item B is a grant agreement with the Arizona Department of Transportation Multimodal Planning Division for Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 operating funding. Item C is real property acquisition of right-of-way for the Silver Bell Road, Goret Road to Camino del Cerro project. Item D is Tucson Code amending Chapter 22, Article 5, providing for bridge leave for Public Safety Commission employees. Item E is Parks and Recreation, naming the Reed Park Rose Garden the Seal Peterson Rose Garden. Item F is Parks and Recreation, naming the Golf Link Softball Complex the Todd M. Harris Sports Complex. Item G is a resolution supporting the proposed amendment to the Constitution of the United States relating to the Equal Rights Amendment for men and women. Item H is employee benefits, adoption of fiscal year 2020 self-insurance medical rates. As discussed during the study session, the ordinance to this item will be amended to reflect a total amount of $3.9 million. That's the extent of the consent agenda, Your Honor.
And my understanding was several council people wanted to make not take off the consent agenda, but make statements about items E and F. So why don't we start with, we're going to go to the wards. Why don't we start with, we'll start with item F. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The renaming of the Golf Link Sports Complex is done in order to honor the late Sergeant First Class, Army Sergeant First Class, and Tucsonan Todd Harris. He grew up in Tucson, went to local elementary, middle, and high schools, and played Little League baseball. He is a graduate in 1992 of Saguaro High School, where he excelled as a football player, making the All-State team several times. In February of 1998, Sergeant Harris joined the Army and served his country with distinction. During his time in military service, he was the recipient of many commendations and medals, including 5 Army Commendation Medals, 4 Army Achievement Medals, 5 Army Good Conduct Medals, and the National Defense Service Medal. His final call of duty was November the 3rd, 2010, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, where he lost his life when his unit was attacked by insurgents. he made the ultimate sacrifice while defending this country. I think it's very important we remember those folks who've given their all for this country. And I'm very honored that the Golf Links softball complex will be named in honor of Army Sergeant Todd M. Harris. And with that, I move the item.
Second.
Councilmember Cunningham, do you want to speak on this item or the other one?
This one.
Okay, go ahead.
So Todd and I graduated the same year, and we used to play basketball and football together at the park. I remember when he passed away, I talked about it. It was like my third council meeting. I was kind of surprised. I reached out to a few of the guys, Trent Schleck, Corey Woods, some of the dudes from the team, and they all were really excited about all this. So I wish I would have been able to organize a little more. I was thinking it was coming up next month, but we all of us who played basketball, football, and baseball about that time, whether you were Palo Verde Little League or Pantana Little League, Freedom, or if you did football at Rincon, Palo Verde, or Saguaro, you knew all the same people. I mean, you knew all the same people, you talked to them, and when you see everyone, it's like you guys never stop talking, and it's a great opportunity to reminisce. It's a great opportunity to speak. And what's going to be really cool is we're all coming of age, and we're all going to take our kids to the Todd Harris Sports Complex, which is very appropriately named. I never got to tell you how much of a really neat guy he was, because so many times you meet people and you take it for granted. Oh, that's a cool guy. I can't wait I'll meet up with him again. And we really never had that opportunity, but we graduated the same year. We were also the only alumni. We were a few of the alumni who joined the military, served in the Army. So there's a special kinship with guys who graduated at that time, played sports at that time, and we're all still friends. We all know each other. So this is very appropriate, and it'll be I think it will be really special when that sign goes up and all of a sudden we got, think about whose kids are going to be out there. I mean, Ryan Hessen's kids might be out there. Jeff Woodruff's kids might be out there. Shelley Duncan's kids I know are going to be out there. All those guys chewed the same dirt as Todd did. So it'll be a pretty special moment. I look forward to seeing you guys at the dedication.
So, Diana, it must be nice to have a lot of friends on the council. I know it's been a long go for you on this, but this has really worked out for the best. And so because of the difference between me and Councilmember Cunningham's age, I think I knew Todd just barely before Paul did, but I only knew him as a little tyke, not as an athlete or as a soldier. So, to Shirley for helping make this happen, for Paul, and to all of you, this is a very appropriate tribute. I think we're all very moved by it. So I think we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll wait a second. We can go to roll call on this. Why don't we do that? Roll call.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczyk?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
This item, naming the Todd Harris Park, passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you for being here. All right, Ward 6, Councilman Kozaczyk, you have one? Oh.
Item E. So Sandra and Anna had my post-it to call on you two, so you sort of beat me to it. So having lost my mom fairly recently, I could feel the emotion in your comments, and I can tell that they were absolutely heartfelt, and yours as well, Sandra. I'm sorry Katya couldn't be here tonight. I understand why. But we're here tonight to really honor a true community asset. We've heard, Seal was both a philanthropist and an entrepreneur, and renaming the Rose Garden in her honor is absolutely fitting tribute. And to put an exclamation point on that, when we sent out the kind of call to the public to support, to sort of fill in some gaps and put some more roses in, our own parks employees who take care of that stepped up to the plate and even overfilled the call. So kudos to them as well. So I'm really proud to be able to support and make this motion that we rename the Rose Garden and Reed Park in honor of Seal Peterson.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I guess it is, we're going to have 3 votes here, so, but let's go to roll call.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye, so that motion also passes 7-0. So the remaining part of the consent agenda that nobody, I believe, wanted to make comment on was A through D and G and H. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'd like to move those items.
Okay. We got a motion and second on the remainder of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on any of that? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
That motion also passes 7-0. All right, let's go to item 8.
Public hearing C14-19-01, street name request, East Heron Street, City Manager's report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 118, dated April 23, is received into and made part of the record. Ladies and gentlemen, this is time and place legally advertised for a public hearing to approve a new street name, East Heron Street. This public hearing is scheduled to last for no more than 1 hour. Speakers are limited to 5-minute presentations. I do not believe I have anybody who's requested to speak on this. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to this matter? All right.
Move to close the public hearing.
All right. We got a motion and second to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read ordinance 11638 by number and title only.
Ordinance number 11638 relating to street name, East Heron Street, and setting an effective date.
What's the council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass and adopt ordinance number 11638.
Second.
Got a motion and second on that item. Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek? Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Ordinance 11638 passes by a vote of 7-0. Let's go to item 9.
Public hearing C8-18-02, amending Chapter 23B, the Unified Development Code, relating to infill incentive district building height and materials in historic preservation zones. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 119, dated April 23, is received into and made a part of the record. Ladies and gentlemen, this is time and place legally advertised for a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the Unified Development Code relating to building height and materials where the IID overlaps with historic preservation zones. I know we have staff here that's prepared to answer questions. I think what I'd like to do is first proceed with the public hearing and then determine whether the council has questions, if that's okay. This public hearing is scheduled to last for no more than 1 hour. Speakers are limited to 5-minute presentations. Please come forward when I call your name and make your presentation. State your name and whether or not you live in the city, whom you are representing, and whether or not you are a paid speaker. We do have, we had more cards than this. We have 4 cards. Well, right now we have 4 cards, so let's just call them. If somebody else pipes up that I don't have their card, we'll deal with it. Rory Juneman. There's nobody speaking in opposition. Here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Rory Juneman, 60 East Calle Primorosa in the city of Tucson. I'm not representing any clients tonight, just representing myself. And I did want to speak in support of this text amendment. As you know, this amendment helps resolve kind of an interesting intersection between 2 of the zoning overlays within the city. The HPZ, which is designed to protect our most most valued historic neighborhoods, and includes a limit on heights that mostly keeps heights to 1 or 2 stories. And the other zoning overlay is the IID, that's designed to encourage urban development and allows some additional heights in some areas. This amendment eliminates a problem created when those two zoning overlays overlap and create a conflict. I want to thank you for asking staff to really come up with a compromise solution to this problem. Because the existing solution was to remove the property from the HPZ, which frankly nobody liked that solution. And I want to thank staff for creating this reasonable compromise. It sets heights lower than allowed in the ID, but allows some additional heights in the HPZs, but still looks to the heights within the HPZ to set that maximum height. It's a reasonable compromise and the right solution, and I encourage that you pass this text amendment. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rory. John Burr.
John Burr, 424 South 5th Avenue. Tonight I'm representing Armory Park Neighborhood Association as its development chair, although I serve on both the ID Design Review Committee and Armory Park Historic Zone Advisory Board. This has been a very long process. It's been about 2.5 years. I've been to almost every public meeting. I've already spoken before you on this, so I'm going to be very brief tonight. I urge you to support it as it is presented. I'm very gratified that although 2 of the HPZ boards did not endorse it, the Planning Commission and the Historic Commission did overwhelmingly, has a class for all 4 of the HPZ zones. When it became very clear how few applicable lots this actually applies to, it's really probably only going to affect Armory Park in realistic applicability. But I think it's very important as a policy direction from Mayor and Council about where you will consider potentially taking future parcels out of the HPZ zone, and a support of the HPZ zones to not do that by providing this very real benefit in the few areas where you have actually directed new development to go and provided the economic means for that to happen. So I really hope that it goes forward. I think that's all I'm going to say tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Larry Kapler.
Mayor Rothschild and council members, I'm here to register my support for the Historic Preservation Zone HPZ Height Modification Unified Development Code Text Amendment, which is being considered in this Mayor and Council meeting. I'm in receipt of the Mayor and Council Memorandum Study Session notes for this issue, and my comments are as follows. As you may know, my family owns 2 other HC3 properties that adjoin the Baffert parcel at 5 Points, and these would be affected by the text amendment. Our intention is to develop the property in such a way as to significantly increase densities that will sustain quality historic neighborhood development in our city. Our legal counsel informs us that the passage of this amendment would simplify and depoliticize our efforts to develop these, which is likely the reason that the council members initiated this amendment process in the first place. Our experience as the provider of commercial and residential real estate near downtown Tucson, as well as in greater Pima County, leads us to the conclusion that the passage of this amendment would be good for Tucson. It will also go a long way to achieving the goals which are stated in the Plan Tucson. considerations as they relate to business climate, land use, transportation, and urban design, and the quality of life in Tucson. For decades, plans for many infill properties in Tucson that may have benefited by infill development district designations and multiple overlay districts have been stopped or forced into rezoning attempts by requirements of the HPZs. Meanwhile, the cost-to-income curve has been negative. That is, the cost of land, construction, entitlements, architect and engineering fees, and financing had risen steadily and at a greater rate than the real estate rental or sales income. For such properties to be developed in an economically responsible and sustainable manner, increased densities must be allowed to be achieved by the affected property owners. Allowing 48-foot heights and permitting the demolition of non-contributing structures per the IID and the HPZ standards will encourage suitable investment in these sensitive historic areas. If approved, the city will be taking a needed step towards harmonizing the legitimate concerns of the historic preservation community, developers of historically sensitive places, and the community desire for sustainable and desirable development in Tucson's near downtown areas. As such, I urge you to vote your approval of this measure without modifications that would lead to reduced interest from the investing community and as outlined in the 3-page memorandum. Thank you.
And thanks, Larry. Martha McClements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Martha McClements. I live in the city of Tucson, and I am the chairperson of the Armory Park Historic Zone Advisory Board. I think these gentlemen have spoken rather eloquently. Development's going to happen downtown. We'd like to be a part of it. We would like not to have any more pieces of our HPZ tinkered away. So I will hope that after 2.5 years of staff and volunteer work, which has gone into John and Rory and the group, that have gone on for compromise and understanding, that you can go ahead and, as they say, stick a fork in it tonight and pass this sucker. Just saying. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Okay, those are all the cards we have. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing? A motion saying close the public hearing. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Public hearing is closed. So there's a pretty easy course we can take tonight based on the materials that are in front of us. You know, make 4 neighborhoods. I don't know what makes 4 neighborhoods happy, but that was a pretty persuasive presentation that we just heard. I would, maybe it's just a question to Dan. If you could get, yeah, you, Dan.
Mostly children.
So what we've got is 2 neighborhoods who have very persuasively said why they want to be in, and I get it. It's like, look, this ends this dispute. It ends this issue, because even if we don't vote on the other 2, they still have a remedy and they will still go through it, and over time, go through that process. And then we have the other 2 neighborhoods, one of whom only really borders on the neighborhood, but it does border on the neighborhood, the land, and it also creates a situation which isn't the end of the world, where one side of the street gets benefit and the other side of the street doesn't. But so give the council a reason why we shouldn't split the baby, if you understand my question.
So, Honorable Mayor and Council, I think you actually expressed that quite well, considering that Barrio Historico and Armory Park are bordering each other along Stone Avenue. And if you end up pulling out one or the other, it could lead to inconsistencies of how development could go along Stone Avenue. So it has to do really with the consistency of development on that corridor. The other thing related to West University, and West University was not in support of this this amendment when we did bring it to them, is that there are significant restrictions right now, development restrictions on what could go on the few parcels that are there. So it's the corner of University, southwest corner of University and 4th Avenue. There's those parking lots that are over there behind Epic Cafe. The requirements of the infill incentive district for those parcels requires you to utilize the underlying zoning, and the underlying zoning setbacks and building setbacks severely restrict the amount of height. So if you were to be able, it would be very difficult to fit a 48-foot building on there. And if you were, you still have the Trinity across the street, which is of the exact same scale and would be of the same kind of era as far as that development.
So it sounds like what you're saying is you don't have to split it 50-50, but maybe if you went 75-25, you'd be okay. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. Councilman Kozaczek, I think this is all in your, I think it's all in your ward.
Well, no, actually, it's part of it's in Ward 1 as well.
Okay.
But I will start. The Baffert and the Trinity were each involved in redrawing the HPZ boundaries and in order to accommodate projects. We've heard from both sets of developers. So first of all, thank you to staff for the outreach. It's been pretty extensive, and we've seen some varied preferences, as Mayor Solomon has given us. Some people caught it. Some people like it and some people don't. The proposed change affects a very limited number of properties and only where the IID overlaps in HPZ. Currently, the max height allowed for a new building is the tallest existing building within a given development zone, and what's being proposed is to allow the tallest height to be the tallest contributing structure in the entire HPZ. My preference is to respect the unique characteristics of the neighborhoods as they were polled, since there are only a few, and to let those who want to opt into this, and those who don't want to have the opportunity to opt out. And those two would be Barrio Historico and West University. That seems to me to be successfully to be responding to the input that we've been given by the respective neighborhoods on what has been a fairly contentious and tough issue, and respecting their unique and individual preferences. So I'm not sure to the city attorney how we would actually craft that, but perhaps give neighborhoods 30 days to opt in or opt out. But that would be my recommendation, is to not try and paint a one-size-fits-all where the very unique characteristics of the individual neighborhoods differ.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Kozaczek, I don't know that we could do it in a way that delegates the authority in terms of creating this option to the individual associations. I think if the mayor and council's determination is only to make this change within specified HPZs and the areas where those HPZs overlap with the IID, we'd have to tweak the ordinance that's in front of you to identify that somehow.
But that'd be easy.
But I don't think we can just say, let's create a 30-day period and let them decide.
So the direction would be to allow El Presidio and Armory Park to opt in and not include Barrio Historico and West University.
Or just say tonight, you'd have to amend the ordinance, but come back. The motion would be to apply it to Armory Park and Presidio, and that's it, right?
Right.
And then, as much as I think the other two neighborhoods are making a mistake, in my opinion, I can respect that process because, first of all, they can always opt in later. There will be new leadership someday. And even, it's not stopping the developer, although it is making it more difficult for the developer to go through a process, which is still a process that allows for that development, just makes it that very much harder. So, but I'd like to hear Councilman Romero, your thoughts.
Yes, I agree with the process in the West University area and Barrio Histórico, Historic Preservation advisory boards denying their wanting to be part of this, but then having El Presidio, which is in Ward 1, and Armory Park, wanting this because they want to be able to have much more control and input into the process, then I would say that we move in the direction of leaving El Presidio and Armory Park in this process. And then my question is, would West University and Barrio Histórico be able to opt in? If for one reason or the other they wanted to later?
We'd have to go through the process again, because the way I see this, to break it up into the different historic zones, is we're going to do it by amending the different HPZ sections of the UDC as opposed to just doing it under the IID section. And so we would do it for the ones that you're expressing support for now, and if the other areas wanted to come in later, then that would be their own text amendment at a later time.
But it would not be impossible. In fact, it could probably likely be expedited given the history that we've been through.
It wouldn't be impossible. I just wanted you to know that we'd have to go through the process.
Okay. Okay.
So that would be my motion. To allow Armory Park and, to allow Barrio Histórico and West University to opt out of the proposed change, but the other two to be a part of it.
Okay, I got a motion, a second. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes 7-0, even though the clerk never did get to read the ordinance. You want to read it?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Ordinance number 11639 relating to planning and zoning, amending the Tucson Code, Chapter 23B, Unified Development Code, Section 5.12.6 and 5.12.14, and setting an effective date.
And that's as amended, or will be amended. So.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we voted, so we got it. All right. Item 10.
Tucson Code C81805, amending Chapter 23B, the Unified Development Code relating to downtown area infill incentive district. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 120, dated April 23, is received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read ordinance 11640 by number and title only.
Ordinance number 11640 relating to planning and zoning, amending the Tucson Code, Chapter 23B, Unified Development Code, Sections 5.12.2, 5.12.5, 5.12.6, 5.12.8, and 5.1217, and setting an effective date.
What's the council's pleasure?
So I have one question on this one. The second item in this, it's number 3, Section 512.6E3 on demolition. It establishes a date for new demolitions as of the adoption of this date, which is tonight. But in fact, that prohibition has been in place since 2015. So the specific dating of the wording, the specific dating is tonight, and that's not accurate. So would it be appropriate for Mr. Rankin if there's a clarifying statement that simply says the demolition prohibition of historic structures within the IID area was established and enforced upon the adoption of the original ordinance, 11246?
So what I think we could do is, I got some information that this issue was going to come up today, and I think what we can do is revise this section So that, because the purpose of this amendment is to make it clear that the ability to use the IID option is not available if the proposed project includes demolition of a historic structure.
Right.
But this is also to clarify that you can't just do it in sequence either. You can't demolish the historic structure and then say, okay, now I'm going to come in with my project. And so that's what this amendment does tonight. So I think we can clarify that by revising the amendment as presented to you, so it would read under 512-6E3B, so that it would read, for purposes of subsection A above, which is the subsection that does what I just described, the prohibition against the use of the IID zoning option applies to any development project where any demolition of a historic structure occurs on that property on or after the effective date first of ordinance number 11640, May 23rd of 2019. So that's this ordinance. But then it would go on to say, for any development project where a demolition of a historic structure occurred on the property during the time period from February 18 of 2015 until February 23rd of 2019, the application will be governed under the provisions of Ordinance 11246. So that will preserve how those applications were already treated under the prior ordinance.
It did indicate that the proscription has been in
Right.
place for 4 years, we're not just born again today.
Right.
And that's accurate? The prescription has been in place for 4 years?
The prior language in A was part of the ordinance in 2015. This amendment makes it clear.
Just clarifies.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So I would make, with that amendment, I would move the item.
11640, I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Ordinance 11639 by a vote of 11640 passes by a vote of 7-0. Item 11.
Economic Development authorizing a government property lease excise tax lease agreement for the Union on 6th project. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 126 dated April 23 is received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read Resolution 23017 by number and title only.
Resolution number 23017 relating to economic development incentives and real property, authorizing and approving the government property lease excise tax lease agreement between the City of Tucson and Graystar Real Estate Partners, LLC, doing business as GEDR Union on 6th, LLC, for their mixed-use development located at approximately 340 East 6th Street at the southwest corner of 4th Avenue and 6th Street.
What's the council's pleasure?
Mayor, I have a question of the city attorney again. What rights accrue to the city as a result of the ownership change under a G-plat? We effectively take ownership.
So the ownership is really a nominal ownership, quite frankly, and but by being under the lease agreement, that gives us a mechanism to ensure that the terms of the lease are enforced during the period of the lease. So that gives us that contractual bundle of rights to ensure that the property is used in the manner that is described in the lease and that the other requirements of the lease are satisfied by the tenant. And we wouldn't be in that position if we were not in an ownership position leasing the property back to the tenant.
Okay. A similar question for the Rory's group. Where there you are. What can you describe the ownership relationship between the Union on 6 and the district?
Rory, if you could come up, please.
Honorable Mayor and Council, so a few, I guess it was 4 or 5 months ago, prior, EDR was the prior owner to the Graystar acquisition, and EDR owned the district outright. As part of that, that acquisition, EDR sold a majority interest to a private equity firm called Blackstone in the district. So right now, Graystar is a minority interest owner in the district, and they do manage it. Their property management arm manages the district, but as far as an ownership goes, it's a minority interest.
So, but it's a management relationship now, and Graystar is the managing partner on the district site.
They are hired as the management company for the district, so that has been consistent, but the actual ownership, they're now a minority owner of the district.
So here's one of the issues is I was involved in some of the early conversations with the original ownership of the district, and commitments were made, and one of them was what Richard Mayer alluded to, and that is this northbound traffic. And then the property flipped. And that was just one of several commitments that were made. And as soon as the property flipped, it was as though the conversations it was as if they'd never taken place. Richard raises what is a significant safety issue to the area, and so my question is, with the adoption of this agreement, is Graystar in a position to put in traffic spikes or something to keep that northbound traffic from happening before we have a tragedy in and around the district, that area?
Graystar's willing to look at this again. When it was under EDR, we looked at it, trying to look for some solutions. Part of the problem is there's no really obvious solutions. As Richard said, it's a poor design, and it's kind of a tough problem to look at. But I know that Graystar in the last few months has put up additional signage, has talked to, is addressing residents who are breaking the rules, is trying to get it under control. And I know that they're willing to enter a conversation to maybe look at improving it further, maybe even relooking at how the traffic is designed overall to see if there's a better solution. That would entail reopening some of the commitments that were made originally, to where I know some of the neighbors didn't want traffic coming out onto Fifth Avenue. So that may not make some people happy, but I know that they're willing, as kind of a new management company, to look at some solutions and have a discussion.
Let's put some new sets of eyes on it, because it is, and I've observed it, it's a serious safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got another 400-ish students who are heading north right into the neighborhood, right past some private residences. And so I appreciate the willingness of the folks to step up to the plate and take a fresh look at it. Also appreciate the willingness to enter the community benefits agreement. It's the first that we've ever done, not we, but the community has ever done, and that has shown a real willingness to engage and be a part of the broader conversation about this community. So with that, I would move the adoption of the GPLET for Union on 6.
23017.
If that's what it is.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbers?
Aye.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham? Mr. Kozachi?
Aye.
Resolution 23017 passes by a vote of 7-0. Item 12.
Economic Development, approval of primary jobs incentive development agreement with RAYTHEON Company. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 122, dated April 23, is received and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you're requested to read Resolution 23014 by number and title only.
Resolution number 23014 relating to economic development incentives and real property, authorizing and approving the primary jobs incentive development agreement between the City of Tucson and RAYTHEON Company for the RAYTHEON expansion project.
What's the council's pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I have one question for the
Sure.
City Manager. Mr. Manager, can you tell us remind us of how this proposal is financially beneficial to the City of Tucson?
Mr. Chakowski.
Mike?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Fimbres, I'll have Mike Tukowski answer it. Just to refresh your memory, this has been an ongoing conversation for some time, and each time we get to the point where the agreements are ready, we bring them back to you. So I'll let Mike go over the detail here.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Fimbres. As the manager alluded to, this is a significant project, and we've been working on this for several years. In addition to the creation of 1,900 jobs, new jobs to our region that are all paying not only in excess of our minimum requirement of $52,400 at the beginning of the negotiations, they're all paying in excess of $110,000. So significant new high-paying jobs into our community, 1,900 new jobs for us. The analysis shows, the reimbursement of this really in the scale of things, $1.4 million. We're showing a total analysis just based on this expansion. Excuse me. Oh. Apologize, I lost my page on that.
Way more than.
Drum roll, please.
Over the, Mike, I think you told me over 4 years, this expansion will result in a total gross direct revenue to the city of Tucson of $4.7 million,
yes.
including
I apologize, yes.
$911,000.
So in direct revenue just to the city of Tucson, it's $4.7 million, including $911,000 for public safety and the zoo improvements. So that's just for the city. For the region, the state and county, it's $16 million just for this expansion.
So with that, I move to pass and adopt resolution 23014.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, let's go to roll call.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mr. Cunningham?
Aye.
Mayor Rothschild?
Aye.
Mr. Kozaczek? Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Romero?
Aye.
Resolution 23014 passes by a vote of 7-0. Item 13.
Elections, calling a charter amendment election for November 5th, 2019. Report from City Manager.
City Manager's communication number 127, date April 23, is received into and made part of the record. Mr. Clerk, you request to read ordinance 11641 by number and title only.
Ordinance number 11641 relating to elections, calling a special election on November 5th, 2019 to submit to the city's qualified electors as recommended by the 2019 Citizens Commission on Public Service and Compensation, a question relating to amending Section 8 of Chapter 5 of the Tucson Charter to increase the mayor's salary from $42,000 per year to $63,128 per year, and amending Section 9 of Chapter 5 of the Tucson Charter to increase the council member's salary from $24,000 per year to $42,081 per year, and declaring an emergency.
What's the council's pleasure?
Well, Mr. Rankin, we all have a conflict of interest on it, so we can't vote.
Yes, it can't go to the ballot.
I was going to make a joke, but I think I'll refrain.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Look, the deal is that every single year we get asked to do this. We actually have to put it on by law. One of us gets to vote no on it ceremoniously, and even then it doesn't matter. It's still going on the ballot. The big thing, I mean, none of us are willing to say that one, quite frankly, if you really look at it, our city council members are probably not paid enough. That's probably a true statement. But do we really need a 20%, 30% raise, or whatever this is? Probably not. It should be kind of a gradual thing. You know, I looked at some of the other jurisdictions in Arizona. I thought that was a fair kind of assessment. Understand that we make less than the city council members of Scottsdale. We make less than the city council, which has 234,000 less people, by the way. We make less than the city council members of Glendale, Arizona, that has 234,000 people. That's less than half of our population. But then we make more than the city council members of Peoria, and they have 1/5 of the population. So it's kind of up and down. I mean, it's a very ceremonious amount of money. We do get benefits for health insurance. We do get a car and stuff. I mean, so it evens out. But the bottom line is that the public has to know is that, one, we can't vote ourselves a raise like they can do in other jurisdictions. Their charter allows them to vote themselves a raise. Our charter does not allow that. Number two is that none of us even have a choice on voting no on this. It's not like we're all running out, leading a parade going, oh, oh, poor us, give us more money. It's not like that. So this is a recommendation. We're going through this process. Ultimately, I'd love to see a gradual, years to come. I can say that I probably will never be serving when a raise comes in, but I know that in future years where I'm not going to benefit from it, I'll vote for it. So I'll second the motion, and I'll be voting yes.
We got any other discussion?
No,
Hearing none.
Asked if Paul hadn't said all that.
All right, let's go to roll call, understanding that you're legally required to vote yes. Okay, go to roll call.
Ms. Romero?
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Durham?
Aye.
Mrs. Scott?
Aye.
Mr. Fimbres?
Aye.
Mr. Kazaji?
I hope it passes.
Mayor Rothschild?
It'd only be right, yes. Ordinance 11641 passes by a vote of 7-0. Let's go to item 14.
Adjournment.
Council stand adjourned. Next meeting, May 7th, right here, 5:30 p.m. Thank you.